Now, the subgenre of the erotic thriller certainly gained a lot of momentum in cinema to close out the 80s with films like Fatal Attraction, and as the 90s would begin, this little steamy corner of film would explode to the forefront, hitting everywhere from the big screen to late-night premium cable to even basic cable television in slightly less steamier forms. We're going to explore the subgenre of the erotic thriller and go back through the 90s to talk about those films that rose above the competition, so to speak. I'm also going to stick to the more tried and true traditional erotic thriller format, that being a story centered on a femme fatale of some type who uses sex as a form of control or manipulation. This usually revolves around a crime or a crime of passion, where there is usually a fall guy who, despite his common sense, falls for the seduction of this fatale to his own detriment. So with that said, let's get into my picks for the steamiest erotic thrillers from the 1990s. Coming up first at number 5 is a film that actually does have a strong supporting cast to it, with names like Willem Dafoe and Joe Mantegna and Ann Archer and a young Julianne Moore. This one had plenty of steamy sex scenes as well, led by pop star Madonna, but sadly Madonna was also the star of 1993's Body of Evidence. Now, without names like Madonna, Willem Dafoe, Joe Mantegna, and others, Body of Evidence would be a straight-to-video, late-night cable romp of sex and murder, and really, even with names like Madonna, Dafoe, and Mantegna, Body of Evidence is a romp of just gratuitous sex and predictably cheesy storytelling and erotic melodrama. This movie delivers essentially every cliche in the erotic thriller handbook, but it isn't a good one. The plot is messy, it's emotionally inconsistent and lacking genuine passion, and despite the sexual exploits of Dafoe and Madonna, who are clearly enjoying themselves living out the fantasies of a trashy romance novel, and as much as this film tries, and as much as Madonna was a sex symbol at the time, Dafoe and Madonna are no Stone and Douglas, and Body of Evidence lacks much of the intrigue to be a basic instinct. Moving along to my number 4 pick is another erotic thriller that certainly delivers plenty of sex, but it also delivers one of the dumbest plots in cinematic history when Bruce Willis would play a troubled psychologist in 1994's The Color of Night, also starring Jane March, Lance Henriksen, and Ruben Blades. I don't think any erotic thriller has ever been as ridiculous or as self-indulgent as Color of Night, yet another film that fills its runtime with a buffet of cliches and stylized sex montages. The bizarre meter for this plot is just through the roof, as members of a therapy group are all unknowingly seduced by the same person for comically melodramatic reasons, with a sexy Jane March and Bruce Willis and his little Willis front and center soaking up the scenery for these roles. Color of Night is not a good movie, but it's crazy enough to sort of have fun with while watching. I would say the forced emotional intensity in this movie is relentless. The performances are all unknowingly over the top, and the erotic atmosphere is so comically inflated it just results in a collection of sex scenes that deliver world-class gratuity in a movie that delivers little else. Now, the heyday of the erotic thriller really did sort of end around 1995, but my number 3 pick would come in 1998 and would sort of be the last quality commercial erotic thrillers we've ever had, and that film would be Wild Things, starring Denise Richards, Neve Campbell, Matt Dillon, Kevin Bacon, and Little Kevin Bacon. You know, I would probably consider Wild Things to be the most entertaining of all the movies on this list. It's well acted, it's crisply directed, the plot takes plenty of twists and turns to weave a delightfully playful mystery fueled by lust and seduction and greed and manipulation. The scoring creates a moody atmosphere. Dillon delivers a natural duality to his character, and Bacon really is the perfect wild card, with Campbell and Richards delivering a sexy duo to charge the erotic undercurrent of this ever-changing story. I think Wild Things really shines because it focuses on being an intriguing mystery with interesting characters first, with the provocative undertones and steamy threesomes coming in as a side piece, which is why this movie is really the last strong film to come from the era of the erotic thriller. Coming in next at number 2 is easily, I would say, the most well-rounded and most critically acclaimed film on this list, a film that maneuvered perfectly inside the subgenre of the erotic thriller, and that film would be John Dahl's The Last Seduction from 1994, starring Linda Fiorentino, Peter Berg, and Bill Pullman. You know, this movie isn't as flashy or as commercially popular as the others on this list, but I would call it the most well-rounded of all these films. Fiorentino delivers, I think, a top-tier femme fatale. She's so effective, you even sort of like her and like her confidence despite her deplorable acts. She's smart, she's cunning, she's sexy, she's dangerous. The plot does follow the path of a traditional erotic thriller, but I think it does the beats extremely well to craft an intriguing tale of manipulation and lust and murder and sex and control, with Fiorentino driving the bus and Berg, lost in love, lying under it. The Last Seduction delivers plenty of steamy sex, but it's another film that focuses on its story and the growth of its characters first, and I think that's why it holds up so well despite all the passing of time. And for my number 1 pick, my selection for the most steamiest erotic thriller from the 1990s, it wasn't a hard choice at all. It's easily the most well-known and most pop culturally relevant erotic thriller of all time, and that would be 1992's Basic Instinct, directed by Paul Verhoeven, starring Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas. I mean, you gotta consider Basic Instinct one of the best to ever do this genre. It's the perfect balance of enjoyable storytelling and gratuitous sex. The direction from Verhoeven gives this movie endless style. The murder mystery at the core is very seedy and alluring and ominous, and Douglas and Stone command their roles and they sell it like it's never been sold, which is why this movie was everywhere. Basic Instinct for the erotic thriller was like Die Hard for the wrong place, wrong time action movie, and it would spawn a slew of copycats. Basic Instinct is part of pop culture history. It's seductive and edgy and dangerous, and it just all comes together into a stylish film that's clearly superficial, but with Stone driving the erotic intensity, this movie will be, I consider, timeless in the genre. And that's it for this video today, guys. That wraps up my picks for the steamiest erotic thrillers from the 1990s. This little subgenre of movies will always be a timestamp of 90s cinema, and these films are all fun to go back and watch all these years later. Let me know what you thought of these movies if you have seen them. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. I greatly appreciate your support. I hope to see you guys all back in my next video, and until then, movies never say die.
Jack Burton and the Pork Chop.